Warning: the following episode contains spoilers for the film Mosquito, and it came from deep space. Featuring veteran guests from Halloween Movie Marathon 18 and Halloween Movie Marathon 19 and Leprechaun. Co-written by the writer of Eternally Yours and The Strongest Man Alive. And brought to you by the special effects wizards behind Other Keith, Keith III, and Marianne's Squeaking Bosom. Listen to what the critics are saying. Angela says, I was not bored. This episode is for the gorehounds. Welcome to Marianne's Macabre Review.
Hello and welcome out to Marianne's Macabre Review. Today we watched Mosquito. That's
Mosquito, like the pageant.
Mosquito of Ohio. No, Mosquito. We watched it. The movie was brought to us by
the effects wizards from. I can't believe they said
Evil Dead 3.
Yeah, oh my god.
Batman Returns. This was brought to us by Dave Williams. He said, "Have you seen this?" And when the majority of us said no, he's like, "Well, you guys are in for a treat." And boy, were we. So Dave's here.
Hello.
Ken is here.
Hi.
Angela's here.
Hi.
Keith is here.
Yep.
And
Sure am.
So am I. And I'm Marianne. So let's dig into this. Dave, give us a synopsis of this all-star movie.
Oh, well, Mosquito, if you couldn't tell by the title, brilliantly named, is about mosquitoes. So, a spacecraft smashes into a swamp, I guess, the well-known swamps in Detroit. Because, that's what I associate with Detroit as swamps.
Did they say it's in Detroit?
They said it was in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So I know it was filmed in Detroit.
All right, so some sort of
anyway,
forest.
yeah. So spacecraft crash lands into a swamp in Michigan. Mosquitoes suck the blood of the dead alien. I suppose they didn't. They showed his arm or leg or something. I don't know. Sucks the blood of the alien, and they mutate into giant mosquitoes and go on a killing spree.
Very succinct. I like that. I usually say, do shenanigans happen? But this movie gets right into it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way. Keith, do you want to do is there a point of no return with this one? Not live in Michigan?
I guess.
Not live near a swamp?
I guess for the protagonists, I mean, they run into the mosquito, and their car hits it and wrecks, like, immediately within the first few minutes of the film, so there's really nothing they can do except... Well, I mean, I guess one of the strategies would be to, not try to take it with them. Yeah. Not that that affects anything anyway, but still.
I do have a quote.
Let's just get out of this forest as quickly as possible. But what,
I have a quote from Ken that she starts out. She says, "We should take this with us." A little bit later, we should take another body with us, and then Ken just absolutely incensed, has been semi-quiet through the whole film with absolute just exasperation in his voice, and I quote says, "What's with this girl wanting to take the bodies?" I got such a kick out of that because it was just Ken's just quietly occasionally having a exasperated remark, but then just whoa!
That was the tipping point.
Yes, tipping point.
On that subject, I was waiting to ask Ken this, because you also said something else earlier, that
what did you think you were going to be watching when you came over? What did Dave tell you?
I had no idea what I was getting into.
I sent out the text that it was...
If it comes with Dave, it's hard to tell sometimes.
I sent the text that we were going to plan on watching the 1995 classic Mosquito.
Well, okay, so he did at least tell you the name of it or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I did no research on this ahead of time. I was taking Dave's word that this was a movie. Because I know Dave. Dave and I have opposite views on some horror movies, and then we're the same on others. So you never know. I never know with Dave if this is going to be one where I just, nope, I don't agree, or where it's like, no, yeah, you're right. This is funny enough that this is just a good movie.
And it's been a very long time since I've seen this movie. Probably the last time I watched it was maybe 2000. So it's been almost 20 years since I've seen it.
So, did this movie hold up to your standards? Were you like, this is the movie I remember, and this is why I called my friends here?
Yes, yeah. Because once I got into actually watching it, I remember most of the things that happened throughout it. So, yeah, it was about pretty much what I remembered.
Okay. Keith?
Okay, so I took some notes, just a few, and I just answered one of my questions that I'd written down before. Parks said he was a meteorologist. No, not a weather guy. I actually study meteors. They're coming
a
in.
literal meteorologist.
Right, and that's like, that can't be right. And so I looked it up, and they said, well, it's supposed to be called a meteoricist.
Meteoricist?
Yeah, somebody who studies meteors, since the term meteorology is always taking my weather.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, that would make more sense. I don't know, should we jump ahead to the end since I brought this up? I don't know. I mean,
sure.
Well, credits hit, and it just seems like, well, problem solved. No one ever figured out what happened, or they didn't find the spaceship or the alien or anything. So
after the spaceship lands in the very first scene of the film, they never go back to it.
Yep.
Never stumble across it.
Nothing.
They just keep saying he's got his little gizmo thing that detects radiation, and he's like, oh, these, we're getting high radiation hits here. These dead bodies that this lady wants to put in the car have radiation on them.
Yeah.
I don't know if the mic picked up Ken's reaction. Probably didn't, but just
so let's go around and we usually do general thoughts, but let's just dive right into it, because I'm getting a sense that while this was a fun movie to watch together, this is not something that we would go out and be like, I need the DVD for this myself. I know Dave has it. I don't want to borrow it.
I needed the DVD for this, but not only that, I needed the Blu-ray.
So, Ken, would you buy this? Angela, if you
No. I mean, it's a good thing that it's a good funny
film to borrow from Dave.
I wouldn't be one, oh, I've got to have this tomorrow. I'll kill anybody for it. No, I'm not doing that.
How about you, Angela? Would you be like, I need to add this to my DVD collection?
No, because even just looking at the cover, it just looked stupid.
Keith, you want to add this one to your DVD collection?
I suppose not.
I am in the same boat. Dave is our shining star, and he has bought this, and so that sets Dave apart from the rest of us. He's the one that can see that the shine that this movie has. So, Dave, you start out. What drew you to this movie, and just tell us your general thoughts of it, and if you liked it, didn't like it,
The first time I watched this movie, phone alert. The first time I watched this movie, they used to play it on USA Network all the time,
okay.
and that's where I'd see it. So my friend and me, we would, and it was in college. We would, anytime it was on, we'd just sit there and watch it, and it's it was kind of like a Sci-Fi Channel movie before a Sci-Fi Channel movie, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got the terrible special effects.
Yes.
Really poorly acted, but it was, funny. So I don't know, those are the things that kind of drew me to it, and we would always just say, anytime we would see each other, we would go see a movie, we would always say, what's the greatest movie of all time? Mosquito! Every time. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, a bad film favorite of mine.
Yeah, no, that's good. Ken, what about you? Do you like it?
Maybe it's entertaining. I tell you that much.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. I mean, it's, like Dave said, it's more of a sci-fi movie to me than a horror movie.
But you know what? The first half of this movie was a Friday the 13th movie with a mosquito.
Yep.
Because it has that same look of like one of the original Friday the 13th movies. Because it's set in a campground. People are out in the tents.
They had sex.
They had sex.
Time for us to kill him.
Guy goes out to take a piss. Comes back. The mosquito's in the tent. Killing.
Violating the girl.
Violating her. Yeah, so I mean, it was essentially a Friday. And they even have like the killer point of view from time. So it was essentially a Friday the 13th movie. Insert a mosquito instead of Jason.
Some of the practical effect mosquitoes weren't bad, or at least toward the beginning. When they were actually
So toward
interacting
the beginning.
With it. But let me finish. I was going to transition to what I think you're about to say, because you found out a very important note that I was puzzled through a lot of it. I was starting to react, especially toward the end. I was like, what are they doing? Why don't they just reuse some of the footage for some of these other things? Or why are they suddenly like making this look like little cartoons that across the sky when they could have it just kept getting progressively worse. And almost like they had to change direction somehow midstream and just go to some other kind of movie. And so
go ahead and read it, Keith.
All right. Which one? Okay. Matt Hundley was not the first choice to do special effects for this film. Halfway through, the original special effects artist said, quote, "I'll be right back. I'm going to get a pack of smokes." And never came back. So
clearly one of the mosquitoes got him, and they had to replace him midway through the film.
I want an explanation from him. Was he like...
Is that true? Can that possibly be true? Or is that just some kind of joking anecdote for somebody kind of threw in there? But it would explain... I hope it's true. It would explain why it seemed to start off as a single mosquito, or at least a very few number of them. They're very large. You could see and touch they were coming after them.
Yeah.
As opposed to suddenly trying to change it into a swarm of things and kind of painting them in. So
yeah, and they had a lot of different like variations of how they created. Like it looked like they had, I don't want to say it was claymation, but it looked kind of like that style of animation.
Yeah.
Then they had the actual like physical, like big individual bugs that they had like attacking the people for the close-ups, and then they had the ones that looked like they were like
drawn in. So
that looked terrible.
There's another thing that this might have a little bit to do with it. It says mosquitoes attack Mike Hard because this when the mosquitoes attack Mike Hard, part of the scene originally included a shot of the bugs landing on him from a faraway angle. The puppet mosquitoes kept hitting him in the head. After almost 10 takes, Hard was developing a concussion, so the scene was scrapped. So wow. I mean, so they couldn't control the puppets well enough, and they were taking on a life of their own and attacking the guy.
Nice.
That would have been a good movie too. I think,
that's actually. Junior.
Yeah.
I did like the one effect where the guy in the boat got it through the eye.
Yes, that
got
was
the sucker
so
through the eye.
That's got to be the first sci-fi or the first technician, the guy that was
the smoker.
The smoker,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe he saw the budget dwindling down as he kept. He's like, "Oh man, I can't."
He's like, "We will not be able to I will not be able to do the scene without getting out there and manning the puppets myself."
Yeah.
There's probably some conversation that happened at some point. We're running low, or you're going to have to trust that we're going to get you some money after we do blah, 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 and we're going to make enough back, and you're going to get, and he's like, sure thing.
I need some smoke.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Right.
They might have said, hey, our budget is $200,000 for this. And he was like, oh, $200,000 for my sci-fi budget? I can do that. No. No, it's $200,000
That's
for the whole
everything.
movie.
That's everything.
So, I think we were at, did you finish your...
Oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Angela, what about you? What'd you think of the movie?
I thought it was entertaining. Actually, I'm gonna say I wasn't bored.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was boring.
That is a key thing that when Angela's been on has always been like, I was bored during this, and so therefore bad.
Yeah.
Where
I kind of like the bluntness of that sometimes for a range of reactions, because
Yeah.
there are different ways to look at movies other than whether or not it's going to be some
I was at the
artistic
edge of my
masterpiece
seat.
or
Yeah.
something, or whether it's just I paid attention to it. So
Mm-hmm.
See, instead of Angela's, instead of being like, I'm on the edge of my seat, she's like, I was in the middle of my seat, and I was, and my hands were firmly by my side. No, like, I was here. I was present, and I wasn't bored. Ta-da! That's my rating.
You seemed like you were reacting to like the mosquitoes, like going
I was
after
just
the
afraid
people.
they were gonna be more gruesome. Cause like kind of like that movie, I'm like no, I'm like ugh. 'Cause I'm just afraid it's gonna be like really bloody and gory and stuff, but it wasn't.
Yeah, you missed the one through the eye.
Yeah,
you were
I did.
pitching for that.
It was a little bit more comical gore, where like they turn into like Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
God, right?
The guy had the eyes popping out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the corpses. I don't know
that happened
why.
when you got all the blood sucked out of you because your eyes popped
Yeah,
out
but
and exploded.
your face is white and your arms are flesh tone. Come on now, people.
Yeah, that's the makeup guy's problem.
Yeah.
Whoever that was, they were like, okay, faces great.
Mhm.
Oh, this is not in winter. They're in shorts.
Oops.
Oh, we don't have enough makeup for that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a scene where they're showing like all the destruction of that the mosquitoes had done. Is just like, I don't know, what would you say, like at least 30 extras that's strewn
Laying
about
down.
the campground,
Mhm.
and their faces are all painted white, as if
Because
they
they've had blood loss.
right, but
Yeah,
the
like,
rest of their body is
nice
just normal.
and tan. Not even any type of peakedness to it.
No, just
So it seems strange to me that they use those rubbery-looking corpses for the other special deaths. With the bugged out eyes and the rubbery-looking teeth. And I don't understand why they couldn't have just some makeup or something. I mean, maybe that was another indication of another direction change, or the fact that it was like, well, these campers don't look good enough. Let's do that. I don't know, but it seems like a waste of budget to even do something like that. And just
Keith.
oh God.
I just
It's
showed
like
Keith the picture from the website, from IMDb of of Junior being killed.
yeah. I mean, it's like Creep Show or something, or the Crypt Keeper,
Mhm.
something like that. Instead of just
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Total Recall.
why would they start bugging? Anyway, my point though, you could have just. It seems like it would have been less expensive just to paint people or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, and more believable. Okay.
Well,
So
I'm assuming all that stuff was done by like the first string guy who
Yeah.
had to smoke, and then the rest is like, all right,
You got that
who here
dude-
has ever done makeup at all?
Yeah.
Like, any women here just put makeup on their own face and all?
Yeah.
Go out and do something.
just lie down over there.
Yeah.
One of my comments here: wouldn't Marianne have been taken out of the movie's realism if Rex's pants had been up when he came out of the toilet? So I think that's why we got the butt shot when he was coming out of the porta potty. Because she would have called bullshit on that. Because it's like, come on, he couldn't have had his pants all the way up. So
if you see a giant monster and you're in the bathroom wouldn't you pull your pants up before trying to run? Wouldn't it be easier to run with your pants up than your pants down?
Would have been easier, but he was so panicked. He was just like, "Whoa!" That stump that had that.
His instinct was just to go as soon as as possible.
And that's how you die because you didn't pull your pants up.
Well, it was all very real time. Speaking of which, conversely, later when they were in the storm drain, they must have had some sort of time lapse for them to reload the shotgun, right? So they could keep just.
Yeah, never seen one reload the whole
and
movie.
She
it was like a
kept
montage,
handing out bullets, and I'm like, okay, so they're showing us that there's bullets being handed out,
but they're not.
But
reloading.
have they stopped once to reload? Like it was just constant string of bullets. So Keith,
and of course the nail boards. So they're assembling these. They're boarding up the house and so forth.
It was an actual montage of them boarding up the house.
And never once do you see anybody arranging the nails. They're just sort of like handing out boards, and the nails are already where they're supposed to be. So they can just like tap it and it spreads out, and it's like, okay.
They tap it on one nail, and all the nails go in.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not how it works.
It's easier that way.
Yeah.
So, Keith, what did you think?
I think I've been going through a lot of this.
You've been going through your list,
Yeah,
but you haven't given us a definitive.
My opinion.
Wow.
I just don't know if there were things to be entertained by, yes, as we've been saying. I get really... all right, so I've been talking with you about the effects, which I think I found kind of troubling. And I can't remember what we were saying. I'm pointing at Marianne. Early on in this, about whether this was good or bad or whatever, whether you would have wanted to see it, something like that. I can't remember what exactly you were saying.
You want to buy it?
Could have been something like that, but no. During the movie itself. So this is back in 1995, and I'm wondering how I would have felt about it if I'd seen it just then, if it had come right out in the theater.
If I had seen that trailer,
right? Yes,
I would have been like, "Ooh, a sci-fi film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this will be cool. Oh, it's a monster film too."
And Leatherface. They kind of, the effects wizards. They literally said the special effects wizards. And
the special effects wizards, which kind of drives me crazy. Who is the wizard? The guy that quit, or the guy that took over?
Yeah,
because that's the weird. Who are we talking about?
Okay, I remember what it was now, because Marianne has a tendency to kind of dip into IMDb while we're watching anything, and so she was seeing the ratings for this, and they seem to be surprisingly high for a lot of things. And I was thinking, by my standards of 1995 stuff, and if I were into certain kinds of horror,
it didn't even look like a movie from 1995. It looked like a movie from 1985.
Right.
Yes.
There's that too. It could have been like the campy effect, and of course, like people who would have been drawn in by a trailer that says, "Hey, look, we've also got the guy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre."
Yeah, Gunnar Hansen, the guy who played Leatherface in the original movie, was in this movie.
And did a little fan service bit of like
total fan service.
Oh yeah,
a chachak scene with the the chainsaw. What was the line?
I haven't handled these I handled one of these in over 20 years.
Yeah, so like, it's like, applause scene. Yeah. So
I mean, and that turned it around for a lot of people in this room, because all of a sudden we were like, because it seemed like we'd been in that house with mosquitoes forever, and then he brings out the chainsaw, and we all, okay, now that did make everybody happy, and kind of probably got us through that last 10-20 minutes of that film, because the 3-minute timer went on forever.
Another montage bit of time stretching and something.
We gotta get all these people up to the dumbwaiter.
Oh my god!
How many people actually went up it? Two.
The third one went down to the basement.
2 of 5, yeah,
and didn't get saved.
No,
they just sent the guy down with the chainsaw, and you would think that he would at least save the person.
They never even showed him again.
No,
they didn't even show him down there.
Yeah.
Like, where was he at?
I mean, he fell like he could have. I don't know if that would have been enough to kill him, but it certainly didn't seem like he should have been able to really be functional.
He should have been able to at least find him and say, "Hey, you're dead or you're not dead." Yeah. They never even came across his body.
Nope. He just started doing I was kind of hoping that he would do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre wiggle with the chainsaw at the end. But they only gave us one big wave, and then his hand departing the chainsaw.
Oh.
So we know he's dead.
Oh.
So, yeah, since we're getting toward the end again...
I haven't given my rating yet.
Oh.
I haven't given if I liked it or not.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean the end of the podcast.
Okay,
I mean, since,
like,
just on the subject of what we were talking about, toward the story of that.
Okay.
This goes back again to maybe the effects guy turnover thing. Like how they just dropped the subject of the aliens and everything else. It was just sort of like, well, we took care of the eggs, and that's it.
Yeah.
And movie over, I guess.
Because the eggs were inside the house. They
Yeah,
weren't
suddenly.
actually at the or the swamp or wherever. Because presumably that's where they would all.
God, so
all be.
yeah, they completely just decided to change the movie in the middle of it because they couldn't. I think they couldn't fit. Oh my God, that's so weird. I just. Yeah. Which is also, they had 3 different names for it too, didn't they? So, I mean, we watched the trailer because I was curious at the end, like, what drove people to go see it.
Can you tell us the title and the voice of the...
what the hell was it? It was,
Night Swarm.
Oh, yeah. The Night Swarm. I'm not sure if that was quite right, but it was...
It was a little bit more whispery than that.
Night Swarm.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith. Keith, voice actor for everybody. Voice actor for hire. Check him out on Fiverr or on Audible at jkeithjackson.com.
Thank you.
Wait.
I don't have one of those.
You don't have one of them yet. Soon we'll get one.
J. Keith Jackson's, whatever, you'll find it somehow. But
on Amazon. Look for him under J. Keith Jackson. Anyway.
Yes.
So it's called Night Swarm, Mosquito, and...
I guess Skeeter? Was that the working title you heard from somewhere?
Yeah, and I believe they had... they had originally gone with Night Swarm, and then at some point it was going to be called Skeeter, but there was another film going on around the same time. It was also named Skeeter, so then they had to move it to Mosquito.
Actually, I could have sworn I knew there actually was a film called it.
Right.
So the guy that played Hendrix, the kind of slower, doofy guy, the one that has
the park ranger that was spying on people.
Yeah.
I was about to say that. They have a good minute scene of boobs and butts of just people
playing volleyball
and having Hendrix watch these ladies, and he's like, yeah, jump for it. And I'm like, okay, we're supposed to root for this guy? This is the guy that and he dies at the end, but I noticed that there was a soundtrack credit for him. He actually has a lot of soundtrack credits. He performed, it was performed by the Shemps, and
that makes sense.
he was also a guitarist in the Stooges.
See that? That's funny.
But the title of the song is Stinger Up Yours.
Yes.
So there's that. So I enjoyed this movie. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it if I watched this by myself. I would be like, amusing. However, I'm going to make all my friends watch it as abuse.
Thanks, Dave.
I'd be like, no, other people need to see this. I put myself through this. I need to now put other people through this. It was enjoyable. It was funny at parts. It had some good gore. I like the stingers through the eye and stuff. The goopy bodies is kind of a signature for certain horror directors and special effects people. I think they do. I remember a scene from Hellraiser in the first Hellraiser movie, which I love, and Dave, what did you think?
Hated it.
See, so 13 Ghosts, I liked it.
Hated it.
Okay, so I remember a scene in Hellraiser where the body's reforming and everything, and they tend to have that goopy look to it in Hellraiser. So I think that's a choice. And I think Creepshow also does that a lot. I can't remember.
Or Tales from the Crypt or something like that. Maybe
Tales from the Crypt is
that's just the Crypt Keeper.
The Crypt Keeper is okay. It's just some of the goopiness to I think it's might have been a TV show or something.
Anyway. I want to go back to something you're talking about, the Stooges,
uh-huh.
which I've heard of them because they actually were a pretty influential punk band. And I don't know if you've heard of Iggy Pop before.
Yes, I do know.
Yes, that's the band he was from. That's the band he was fronting.
Okay.
Before he went solo. So that is like, a lot of people are like, what's he doing in this? So
yeah, there's another name that could have gotten people into this movie theater to see this. So I enjoyed it. The gore was good.
Well, to be clear, this was not Iggy Pop, but rather a guy that was in his band. But
He's
still,
the guitarist and bass player for the Iggy Pop band called the Stooges.
Yes.
We'll insert tire screeching noise here. The podcast machine we use pooped out on us, and we only got 30 minutes of our recordings, so we don't actually get our ratings recorded. But thankfully, everyone sent me their ratings, and so I just want to get everyone's ratings before we wrap up. So Dave, he gave it entertainment value 8, overall 4. And overall is like an IMDb score. It's a clinical score. And then for the gore factor, he gave it a 4. Angela, entertainment value 8. Overall 4. Gore factor 3. Ken, 8 with friends and only with friends. He was pretty exasperated by this movie. Overall 2, maybe 3. A generous 3 if so. And the gore he just thought was laughable and didn't give it a score. He says, because there's not much more to say about this movie. He was pretty irked by it. Just because it was just so eye-rolly bad. Keith, let's see, his entertainment value was a 7. Overall was a 4. And gore was a 5. I gave it a 7 for entertainment value. Overall, 3. Gore, I actually like some of the gore in it, like the stuff in the eye, and so I gave it a 4. It's not too gory, but some people that don't like gore will definitely not want to watch this. The stuff through the eyes, people that are squeamish with eye horror. Other than that, that's all we have, folks. So we'll go ahead and wrap up, and we'll send it back to Jimmy and Dallas for our final wrap up.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?
I wasn't bored.